Hey there, friend. Ever feel like you're chasing something, maybe a specific career goal or a certain kind of success, but deep down, you're not entirely sure if it's actually going to make you happy? Or maybe you look around at really successful people and wonder why some of them, despite having it all seem so unfulfilled? If that resonates with you, then I've got to tell you about a book that completely shifted my perspective on all of that. How Will You Measure Your Life by Clayton Christensen. Now, this isn't your typical self-help book full with quick fixes or feel-good anecdotes. Christensen, who was a brilliant Harvard Business School professor, actually takes powerful business theories, the kind they teach in BEA programs, and shows you how to apply them to your personal life. It's truly eye-opening because it explains not just what might happen if you make certain choices, but why it happens, helping you design a truly fulfilling life, not just for your career, but for your relationships and your integrity too. The whole premise of the book starts with a pretty sobering observation Christensen made about his own Harvard Business School classmates. He saw them at their 5-year reunion, looking polished and prosperous, with great jobs and seemingly fantastic lives, but by their 10th and later reunions, something had gone terribly wrong for many. Beneath the facade of professional accomplishment, there was widespread unhappiness, divorces, strained family relationships, and in some shocking cases, even criminal behavior, like his classmate Jeffrey Skilling, who ended up in jail for the Enron scandal. These were some of the brightest and most decent people he knew, who at graduation had ambitious plans for both their careers and personal lives, yet something had derailed them. They didn't set out to get divorced or end up in jail, but that's the strategy they somehow ended up implementing. So, what went wrong, and how can we avoid those same pitfalls? Christensen suggests that many of these problems stem from a fundamental misunderstanding of what truly motivates us and how we unknowingly allocate our most precious resources. He dives into something called motivation theory, also known as Herzberg's two-factor theory. Imagine you have two different kinds of things that affect your job satisfaction. On one side, you have hygiene factors, like your salary, job security, working conditions, and even your relationship with your boss. These things, if they're bad, will make you dissatisfied. If you fix them, you'll feel less dissatisfied, but you won't suddenly love your job. Think of it this way: getting paid more might stop you from hating your job, but it won't make you love it. In fact, he famously calls compensation a death trap. Beyond a certain point, you need to get it right so people are all mad, but it doesn't truly motivate. On the other side, you have motivators, which are things like challenging work, recognition for your contributions, responsibility, and opportunities for personal growth and learning. These are the things that genuinely make you love your job, that give you a deep sense of satisfaction, regardless of the money. Many of his classmates chased careers for hygiene factors, like high salaries, promising themselves they'd pursue their real passions later, only to find themselves stuck in a lifestyle they couldn't unwind. Then the book moves into how we actually build our lives, introducing deliberate versus emergent strategy. A deliberate strategy is what you consciously plan to do, your 5-year career plan, for instance. An emergent strategy, however, comes from the unexpected opportunities and problems that arise as you're trying to implement your deliberate plan. The classic example he uses is Honda's entry into the US motorcycle market. They deliberately planned to compete with Harley-Davidson with big bikes, but those bikes kept breaking down. Meanwhile, their small, unassuming Super Cub bikes, originally meant for urban deliveries in Japan, started getting used by employees for dirt biking in the hills for fun. People saw them and wanted them, and soon, these little bikes, which Honda hadn't planned on selling, were keeping their US operation afloat. Eventually, Honda embraced this unexpected success as their new deliberate strategy, creating a whole new market of off-road bikers. So, the lesson here for our lives is, if you're still figuring things out in your career, be emergent, experiment, learn, adjust, and iterate it quickly. Don't be so fixated on your initial plan that you miss better emergent opportunities. Christensen himself became a professor through an emergent path, not his deliberate goal of becoming the editor of the Wall Street Journal. This leads directly into perhaps the most crucial concept: resource allocation. Christensen emphasizes that your real strategy isn't what you say it is, but where you actually expend your time. Money and energy. For high achievers, there's a real danger here. Our careers often provide immediate, tangible evidence of success: promotions, raises, published papers. Investing time in these feels productive, but relationships with spouses and children, they don't offer immediate results. You can neglect your spouse or kids daily, and things don't seem to deteriorate immediately. But 20 years down the road, you might realize you haven't raised good kids or your marriage is suffering. We often overinvest in our careers and underinvest in our families, starving the most important parts of our lives of the resources they need to flourish. So, he challenges us: when you look at your calendar, does your allocation of time, energy, and money truly reflect what you say matters most to you? This segues perfectly into relationships, where Christensen introduces the good money and bad money theory, applied to personal investments. In business, good money is patient for growth but impatient for profit in early stages, allowing a company to pivot if its initial strategy fails. Bad money demands big, fast growth before a viable strategy is even found, often leading to disaster. Like the Iridium satellite phone network, applied to relationships, it means you can't defer investing in your family and friends until problems arise where you need them. It's like planting saplings when you need shade now. He shares the heartbreaking story of Steve, who prioritized his business, providing for his family financially, but neglected them emotionally. When his marriage fell apart and he needed support, he found himself alone because he hadn't made the emotional investments years earlier. Relationships need consistent, early nurturing, long before you see the payoff. He even cites research on language dancing with infants, showing how talking to children in sophisticated ways in their first 3 years can exponentially boost their cognitive development, a tiny investment with enormous long-term returns when it comes to deepening relationships. Christensen brings back the jobs to be done theory, but with a twist. Instead of thinking about what you want from a relationship or what you want to give, ask: what job does my spouse or child or friend most need me to do? He gives the example of his friend Scott, who came home to a messy house and started cleaning, thinking he was helping his wife, Barbara. But Barbara was upset because she just needed an adult conversation after a day with small kids, not more chores done for her. We often project our own needs onto others, ending up like the fast food chain trying to make a milkshake capillary when customers actually wanted it thicker to last longer on their commute or smaller for their kids in the afternoon. True empathy is key, and what really strengthens commitment in relationships. It's often counterintuitive to sacrifice. Christensen argues that sacrifice deepens our commitment. It's not just about finding someone who makes you happy, but finding someone whose happiness you want to devote yourself to. He uses the powerful examples of Marine's commitment to the court after brutal training, and his daughter's profound attachment to the people of Mongolia and her church after serving a difficult mission there. They didn't feel that way because it was easy, they felt it because they gave so much of themselves. The harder we work and sacrifice for something, the more committed we become to it. This philosophy extends to parenting and the idea of capabilities. He introduces that a person's or company's capabilities are built through resources, what you have, process is how you do things, and priorities why you choose to do them. Many parents, with the best intentions, overload their children with resources like lessons and activities, believing they're providing the best opportunities, but they often outsource the work from the home to chores. The problem solving which prevents children from developing critical processes. He gives a wonderful personal anecdote. His mother never mended his clothes. Instead, she taught him how to do it himself. Even simple things like darning socks or operating a sewing machine for torn pants. He learned self-reliance and experienced pride from solving his own problems. Self-esteem doesn't come from abundant resources, it comes from achieving something important when it's hard to do. This leads to the concept of schools of experience. Our abilities aren't just innate, they're developed and shaped by life's experiences. Challenging jobs, failures, new assignments, these are all courses in a school of experience. He warns against hiring based on the right stuff, a polished resume, focusing on resources and instead looking for people who have taken the right courses, developed key processes by wrestling with similar problems. For parents, this means engineering opportunities for your children to face difficulties and sometimes fail. Don't bail them out of every tough spot. Letting a child face the consequences of a neglected project, even a bad grade, teaches invaluable lessons about responsibility and resilience that a parent finishing the project never could. And finally, how do we ensure our children make the right choices when we're not around? Through culture. Just as a company's culture guides employee behavior without constant supervision, a family's culture is the invisible hand that shapes its members' actions and priorities. Culture isn't about casual Fridays, it's about shared learning, solving problems together repeatedly until a way of doing things becomes instinctive. Christensen's family, for instance, deliberately built a culture of loving work by making chores fun and doing them together. Like him mowing the lawn with kids hanging on, or everyone fixing up their wreck of a house. They also had a family motto: we want Christensens to be known for kindness, and consistently praised acts of kindness. Culture will form whether you consciously shape it or not. The question is how hard you're willing to work to influence it, to ensure it reinforces the values you want. The ultimate threat to all of this, and how to stay out of jail, is what Christensen calls marginal versus full thinking. This is perhaps the most powerful and chilling lesson. Most big ethical decisions don't come with a flashy red warning sign. Instead, we face small, seemingly inconsequential choices. Just this once, a voice in our head says, it's okay to bend the rule because the marginal cost seems negligible, but this marginal thinking hides the full cost down the line. He illustrates this with the epic downfall of Blockbuster. They dismissed Netflix, a small DVD by mail upstart, because the marginal profits for Blockbuster from pursuing that market seemed low compared to their highly profitable brick-and-mortar stores, and it would cannibalize their existing business. Netflix, with nothing weighing it down, saw a huge opportunity, and 10 years later, Blockbuster was bankrupt. The real alternative to not going after Netflix was in fact bankruptcy, now happily continuing as before. It's easier to hold to your principles 100 of the time than 98. If you justify doing something just this once, it sets a precedent, and that path can lead you to a destination you never imagined, like his classmate Jeffrey Skilling, or the trader Nick Leeson who brought down Barry's bank. So, as you can see, this book isn't just about business strategies, it's a profound guide for life. It challenges us to think deeply about our choices and their long-term consequences. In the end, Christensen pushes us to articulate our life's purpose, not just a vague idea, but a clear likeness of the person we want to become, a deep commitment to that likeness, and measurable metrics to track our progress. For him, the only metric that truly mattered was the individuals whom I have been able to help one by one to become better people. My biggest takeaway, and my advice to you, is to don't leave your purpose to chance. Life is busy, filled with distractions and immediate gratification. It's incredibly tempting to let the currents of life guide you, but if you don't consciously define what truly matters to you, what your priorities are, how you will allocate your resources, and what kind of relationships and integrity you want to build, you risk waking up years from now, looking in the mirror and asking, what am I doing with my life? This book won't give you easy answers, but it will give you the powerful tools. The theories to navigate the rough seas of life with a rudder, and ultimately to definitively answer for yourself how will you measure your life. It's a journey, not a destination, and it takes hard work. But as Christensen himself found, and as I'm discovering in my own life, it is one of the most worthwhile endeavors you will ever undertake. I truly hope you pick up, reflect on its insights, and start building the life you genuinely aspire to live.